Have you ever been hurt so deeply that you thought, I will never forgive that person? Have you ever asked yourself, why should I forgive someone who caused me pain? Is forgiveness weakness, or is it the most powerful spiritual weapon a human being can possess? In today's video, I invite you to sit with me, not to recount the wounds, but to understand more deeply the miraculous power of forgiveness. Sometimes, forgiveness doesn't make others better, but it surely makes you stronger. I know you and we've both been hurt at some point in life. It could be a harsh word, a betrayal, a cruel deception, or simply neglect that broke your heart. And when pain strikes, the most natural reaction is revenge, the demand for immediate justice. In such moments, forgiveness feels impossibly distant. Society has often planted in our minds a prejudice that those who forgive are weak, easy to bully, without principles. If someone hits you and you smile, you're a fool. But in truth, that is one of the greatest misunderstandings. Think of someone holding a burning coal to throw at another. Who gets burned first? The one holding it. Anger and hatred are like burning coals. The person who clings to them is the first to be consumed. Forgiveness is not about giving others an advantage. It is about freeing yourself from the fire of resentment. Buddhism calls this letting go, releasing the burden of hatred. In the Metta Sutta, the Buddha taught, hatred is never appeased by hatred. Only by love is hatred appeased. This is an eternal law. Ask yourself, when you're insulted, furious, shouting, consumed by resentment, does the other person truly suffer? Not always, but you certainly are destroying yourself every day. Confucianism also teaches, repay hatred with virtue and hatred will vanish. Analects. Why did Confucius value virtue over revenge? Because he knew, only when you rise above the cycle of win-lose can you truly master your own life. Take the story of Duke Wen of Wei during the Warring States period. When slandered by traitors, he did not punish them immediately. His officials asked, why not punish the liar? He replied, if I kill him, I relieve my anger for a moment, but spread fear among others. If I forgive, they will respect me. Later, the slanderer repented and dedicated himself to the nation. The Duke was not weak. He was strong because he mastered himself. Closer to our times, a mother in Cantho whose daughter was hospitalized after being attacked by classmates. Everyone urged her to escalate the matter. Instead, she visited the aggressor's family and said, I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to remind us that children learn from adults. Let's teach them to correct mistakes and grow. The girl later became a doctor and often said, my life changed because of the forgiveness of a mother I barely knew. So you see, forgiveness does not erase justice. It chooses a higher path that creates transformation. Forgiveness does not mean you don't feel pain. It means you feel it, but still choose compassion. We all carry scars, but holding on to them is like tying stones to your feet as you walk forward. Remember this from the Bible. If someone slaps you on the left cheek, turn to them the right also. It sounds absurd, but it doesn't mean submission. It means not allowing someone else's anger to turn you into the same kind of person. Forgiveness is breaking the chain of suffering passed from one to another. The ancients said, take one step back and the sea and sky open wide. I would add, forgive once and the heart becomes boundless. No one is perfect. No one lives without mistakes. By forgiving others, you also plant the seed for others to forgive you one day. Look at the great figures of history. None achieved greatness while harboring hatred. Only vast hearts can hold vast dreams. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, one who conquers others is strong, but one who conquers himself is the greatest warrior. And I believe forgiveness is one of the highest ways of conquering oneself. Of course, forgiveness is not always easy. Sometimes you feel you must not forgive. You were deceived, betrayed, slandered, insulted. If you don't seek justice, aren't you condoning wrongdoing? That thought is not wrong. Some people say, if I don't fight back, they'll just keep hurting others. It sounds reasonable. Forgiveness, in some cases, may be mistaken for weakness, even injustice. But sometimes, withholding forgiveness only means giving others power to hurt you forever. They're gone. The event has passed, but hatred remains, stabbing your heart every time you remember. The ancients warned, unresolved hatred breeds endless hatred. Forgiveness, in truth, is reclaiming control over your emotions. It is no longer letting others decide whether you suffer or find peace. You don't forgive because they deserve it. You forgive because you deserve peace. I once read the letter of a death row inmate's wife in the US, where her husband caused the death of a young boy. The victim's mother did not demand execution, but chose to meet the convict's family. She said, "I cannot bring my child back, but I can choose not to sow more hatred." The story spread across America. The prisoner later wrote a book in prison about guilt and repentance, saying, "Without her forgiveness, I would have died both in body and in soul." You see, forgiveness doesn't erase sins, but it can open a door for the lost to find light. That said, I don't encourage blind forgiveness. Not everyone deserves your compassion. Some repeat their wrongs even after being forgiven. Some wounds need time to heal, not just a quick word of pardon. But even so, you always have the right to release hatred without allowing the wrongdoer back into your life. Forgiveness does not mean continuing an old relationship. Forgiveness means ending the punishment you inflict on yourself because of someone else's mistakes. In the Diamond Sutra, the Buddha said, "All phenomena are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, a shadow, like dew or lightning. Thus should you view them." Life is fleeting, like a dream. To hold on to hatred is like clutching a knife in your heart, thinking you'll stab another, but truly stabbing yourself every single day. Someone once told me, "I cannot forgive my father, the man who abandoned my mother and me. Even though he has died, I still hate him." But 10 years later, when his own child was born, he began to understand why his father had once left. He confessed, "I thought I hated him, but in truth, I was only carrying within me the wound of a child abandoned and never healed." The day he placed his hand on his father's grave, his tears fell like rain. Forgiveness came late, but healing still arrived in time. And then I realized this, my friend. Forgiveness is not about choosing good, and refusing to forgive is not necessarily choosing evil. Forgiveness means choosing to set your heart free. Refusing means choosing to live under the shadow of the one who hurt you. Life is already too short. Let it flow in peace, not in the silent civil war within your heart. Not forgiving is not always wrong, but when you choose to forgive at the right moment, the right person, in the right way, you are choosing a brighter path. You do not need to forget. You only need not let the wound crush you. You can hold on to reason, keep your boundaries, and yet preserve a heart that does not turn to stone. Because those who live with a heart that still feels, still knows compassion, are the ones who truly live a life worth living. You and I both live in a complex world where every day, intentionally or not, we create countless karmic ties. Some good, some bad, some filled with love, some with resentment. But have you ever thought that forgiveness is not only a moral act, but also a hidden turning point that transforms your karma itself? In the Dharma, every deed, every word, every thought is a seed sown into the vast soil of the universe. And when the conditions are ripe, that seed will sprout and bear fruit, what we call karmic result. Forgiveness, in its deepest sense, is the act of cutting through the cycle of suffering that hatred creates. I once witnessed a woman standing before her family altar, lighting incense for the husband who had betrayed her, abandoned her and their 3 children in hardship. He had died in an accident. For years, she carried the burden of raising her children alone, sometimes even dreaming of revenge. But at his funeral, when she looked into the innocent eyes of her youngest son, the mirror image of the unfaithful husband, she was overcome. She said, "I chose to forgive, not because he deserved it, but because I did not want to plant more seeds of hatred into my children's lives." From then on, she devoted herself to charity, reciting sutras at the temple, and her heart transformed. People said, "She is like a woman reborn." And indeed, forgiveness had freed her spirit, opening a new life of clarity and peace. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha once taught, there are 2 kinds of noble people. 1, those who never commit evil. 2, those who, after committing evil, know remorse, repent, and transform. Thus, when the victim, forgiving with compassion, offers a chance for repentance, they also open a doorway of liberation for themselves. Hatred is a closed circle. One person hurts another, the other takes revenge. Then more hatred arises, endlessly repeating. But if you, just one person, choose not to retaliate, you break that circle, dissolving a karmic knot. I once met a young man during a Dharma talk. He had been betrayed by his closest friend, accused falsely, and lost his job. That betrayal drove him into depression and isolation for months. One day, he read in the Shurangama Sutra, "If one does not cut off resentment, one will continue to drift in samsara, never escaping suffering." He began to meditate, reflect on his own mistakes, and then wrote a long letter to his friend, not to blame, but to release. A year later, he returned to school, passed the exams, and earned a scholarship. But the greatest reward was not the scholarship. It was that his heart was no longer controlled by hatred. Forgiveness in Buddhism is a practice that dissolves karma. When you forgive, compassion arises in your heart, and that compassion generates merit, easing your suffering. For the root of karma does not lie in outward actions, but in the mind. A person may do good deeds, but if their heart is filled with hatred, they still suffer. Another may not do many great deeds, but if they hold a heart of kindness, they gradually dissolve karma, accumulate virtue, and shift their destiny. Confucianism also teaches, when the heart is upright, the vital energy flows smoothly. When energy flows smoothly, destiny is at peace. When you forgive, your heart is calm, your blood and breath align, and harmony follows into all aspects of life. That is why many people, after releasing hatred, suddenly see their illnesses ease and their families become more peaceful. You see, forgiveness is not something shallow. It is healing from within, a subtle transformation from spirit to body, like a drop of water falling into a lake, sending ripples outward. One act of forgiveness can dissolve the weight of karmic forces carried across lifetimes. And sometimes the one you must forgive is the closest one, the one who hurt you the most. But if you can overcome it, it is not only forgiveness, it is the unraveling of karmic debts from many lifetimes. Some resentments did not begin in this life. Some people come only to collect debts, deep bonds of enmity. But if you are awake enough to respond with compassion, the old karma will fade, and the path of liberation will open. In the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha taught that bodhisattvas, when facing harm, do not give rise to anger, but to compassion, because they know those who harm us are the very ones who give us the chance to cultivate patience and wisdom. Think about it. If life were filled only with kind people and sweet words, how would we ever practice patience or forgiveness? The one who hurts you, if you look deeply, is in fact your spiritual teacher, an evil bodhisattva, pushing you to the limit so you can learn to let go. Have you heard the story of the Buddha as Prince Siddhartha? Once, a rude Brahmin insulted him before his disciples. The Buddha only smiled. When the man left, his disciples asked, "Why did you not respond?" The Buddha gently said, "If someone brings a gift and I do not accept it, the gift remains with him." Hatred is the same. If you do not accept it, it cannot bind you. So, my friend, forgiveness is not lowering yourself. It is rising above resentment, seeing its roots clearly, and choosing to walk with a lighter heart. Forgiveness does not only release others' karma, it liberates your own. You may not be ready to forgive today. That's all right, but at least begin here. Do not repeat the same hurt upon others. That is the first step of transformation. Once you stop passing on anger, you already begin to create a gentler future for yourself and for those who follow. And know this, when you forgive someone, not only is one heart freed, but the universe itself receives a wave of compassion spreading silently outward. Forgiveness is a simple act on the surface, yet its power vibrates to the deepest layers of consciousness. It touches the place once ruled by hatred and plants a seed of light there. It is no longer just between you and the one who hurt you. It is between you and destiny itself. There is a fascinating phenomenon in life. The more a person clings to resentment, the more they live in fatigue, gloom, and illness. Meanwhile, those who practice forgiveness often find serenity, attract good fortune, and win the affection of others. If you observe closely, you will notice that this law operates silently, but with unerring precision. Why is that? Because forgiveness releases negative energy, and in doing so, it restores your body, mind, and life to a state of balance. In Buddhism, this is called dedicating merit. When you perform a virtuous act, even forgiving, you can dedicate that merit to others or to yourself in the present and future. A single thought of compassion can dissolve a lifetime of hatred. A single word of forgiveness can transform unseen karmic debts. I once heard a story from a lay practitioner who had been devoted to the Dharma for many years. She shared that her lover betrayed her, and later she suffered a car accident that broke her leg on the very day she was headed to court to sue him. She lay in the hospital for a year, drowning in resentment, sleepless from her bitterness. One day, a nun happened to visit another patient in her ward. After listening to her story, the nun simply smiled and asked, "Have you ever thought that perhaps he was someone you betrayed in a past life? What you face now may just be karmic retribution. If you continue to resent him, you keep the karma alive. If you let go, you transform it." That single remark changed her life. She began reciting repentance sutras daily and praying for peace for the man who had betrayed her. Not long after, her injuries healed faster than expected, and she found joy again. She even opened a vegetarian restaurant, sharing her story with others. She said, "If I had not forgiven, I would not be alive today. I did not defeat anyone else. I only conquered myself." Her story reminded me of the Buddha's words in the Dhammapada. Amid enemies, he who harbors no hatred, he is truly free. This means that only when you let go of hatred can you truly escape the endless cycle of inner samsara. Every thought, emotion, and word carries a form of energy. A resentful heart brings heaviness wherever it goes, and every word it utters creates distance. On the other hand, a forgiving heart, even when speaking stern truths, creates space for others to receive. Forgiveness generates an energy that is open, light, and radiant, like still water reflecting the entire sky. That is why in Eastern tradition, people emphasize virtue. Virtue is not merely outward morality, but the subtle energy accumulated from kind thoughts, words, and deeds, among which forgiveness is one of the greatest sources of merit. Those who forgive possess vast compassion, and those with vast compassion are supported by heaven and earth, cherished by others, and blessed with a destiny that unfolds more favorably. The ancients said, "To forgive others is to accumulate blessings for oneself." You may not believe in reincarnation or karma, but you can surely feel the difference in your own life when you forgive. Your nights are more restful. Your presence becomes lighter. Your outlook becomes more tolerant. And unexpectedly, good things begin to flow toward you. So I want to tell you this. Forgiveness is not a gift you give to others. It is a gift you give yourself. It is the gift of maturity, wisdom, and compassion for your own soul. No one can force you to forgive. But if you come to understand its profound benefits, you will see it is a great blessing bestowed upon your spiritual journey. The ancients also said, "Good begets good, evil begets evil. It is only a matter of time before the retribution arrives." When you forgive, heaven sees. When you endure, heaven remembers. When you sow kindness, heaven shelters you. Whatever you lay down with a benevolent heart will one day return to you in light. So if today there is something you cannot yet forgive, do not rush or force yourself. Let your heart settle, and gradually you will realize forgiveness is not forgetting, it is walking forward unburdened. Only then are you truly free. You and I both know it is easy to blame. The hardest thing is to forgive. When betrayed, deceived, insulted, or deeply hurt, our first instinct is hatred. This is survival. We want the other to pay, sometimes to suffer even more than we did. But that hatred is nothing more than a fire smoldering inside us, burning us each day. It erodes health, poisons the soul, and diminishes our capacity to love and be happy. I once knew a man named Min, in his 50s, who lived with hatred for nearly 20 years. His wife left him for another man, abandoning him with their 6-year-old daughter. For the next decade, he refused to love again or open his heart. He worked and lived, but always with bitterness, snapping at everyone, locked in his own darkness. His daughter grew up fearing him, once saying, "Father feels like a black wall." At that moment, Min realized that his hatred toward his wife had poisoned his relationship with the one he loved most, his daughter. After attending a meditation retreat, he began writing letters to his ex-wife, not to send, but to release the venom inside. The first letters were full of curses in capital letters. By the third letter, he broke down in tears. He wrote, "Maybe you were in such pain that you had to leave, but I was wrong to keep hatred this long. I forgive you not because you deserve it, but because I don't want our daughter to live in the shadow of my hatred anymore." From that day, he changed. He laughed more, became gentle with his daughter, and even spoke of her mother with respect. 20 years of hatred dissolved with one inner nod of acceptance. He finally understood. Forgiveness does not require the other's apology. It is freedom from self-imposed torment. The Buddha once said, The fool holds on to hatred as if grasping a burning coal to throw at another, but he is the one burned first. So if you are holding on to resentment, do not force it away with willpower. Sit with it. Look deeply and ask yourself, do I still want to carry this burden for the rest of my life? If not, then it is time to learn to let go. Letting go is not weakness. It is the deepest wisdom of the heart, the strongest act one can do to heal oneself. Hatred binds us to the past. Forgiveness frees us to live in the present. And so, if you understand that forgiveness is for you, where do you begin? How can you forgive truly, not just with words, but with the heart? I will tell you the story of Mrs. Huong, a woman who sold pork offal porridge by the market. She was once tricked by her husband's younger brother into signing a loan contract, after which he took all the money and disappeared. Her family fell into debt, and her children were mocked by their peers. She was so consumed with anger that every time someone mentioned her brother-in-law's name, she would tremble with rage. Every morning at her stall, she cursed under her breath, even ladling porridge with bitterness, making customers afraid to approach. One day, an old man passing by saw her exhausted and left her with a single remark. "My child, those who harm you deserve your resentment, but those who love you, they deserve to see your gentle face. Why let hatred destroy even the ones who cherish you?" The words struck her like lightning. That night, Mrs. Huong lay awake, tossing and turning. The next morning, she took out paper and wrote down everything she had endured, even recalling the times her brother-in-law had once helped when her husband was sick, the good memories mixed with the bad. When she finished, she did not cry. She simply burned the paper quietly. "In this life, you owe me a debt, but I refuse to live forever as the one who collects it." From then on, she became more cheerful. Her porridge tasted better. Customers began to return, and more came each day. At the end of the year, an old customer said, "Looking at you now, I see something gentler, like you've set down a burden of dozens of kilos." She only smiled. "My porridge is the same, but my heart has changed. The heart is the real firepot." That story taught me something important. To forgive, you don't necessarily have to tell the other person. Forgiveness means no longer letting your pain define who you are. It is telling yourself, "I don't want that story to shape my identity anymore." And in that moment, you are free. Here are some steps you can begin with. Shift perspective. See the one who hurt you as a human being in pain, not to excuse them, but to understand that only the wounded inflict wounds on others. Only ignorance creates karma. If you are awake, stop the cycle. Write and burn. Write out all your resentment, wounds, and bitterness, then burn it. Don't keep it as a memento. Let that sacred flame burn away the karmic burden in your heart. Repeat a prayer of dedication. Each day, silently affirm, "May this person realize their mistakes, live kindly, and cause no more harm to anyone else." This prayer is not for them. It is to keep your heart pure. Forgive, but don't allow further harm. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting them keep hurting you. You have the right to step back, set boundaries, and protect yourself. Forgiveness is releasing your heart, not abandoning your defenses. Be grateful for the pain. Some people come only to teach you costly lessons. They help you know your limits, strengthen your heart, and recognize what is truly precious. Thank them. Then continue your path with a wider heart. If you can do these things, I believe that one day soon, your pain will no longer be a wound, but a calm poem you can retell once you are mature enough. You will no longer shiver when remembering them. You will no longer tremble with rage at the sound of their name. You will simply smile, light as a falling leaf in the autumn breeze. Because you already know, I have forgiven, and I am free. My dear friend, forgiveness has never been easy, especially when your heart has once been crushed by a pain too great to name. But if today you are still restless, still suffering from an old grudge, then please remember this. Forgiveness is first and foremost a gift you give yourself. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. We cannot turn back time to erase wounds, but we can always choose to lay down the burden from this very moment. Begin with a single kind thought, a gentle prayer, a small act to open the door for light to enter your heart. Then you will realize, on the path of letting go, the greatest miracle is not that others change, but that you become lighter, brighter, and more truly yourself. If you find today's video meaningful, please click the like button to support me, the one striving each day to plant seeds of goodness in this world. Share this video with your loved ones, because perhaps just one sentence here could help them overcome the unseen struggles you don't know about. And if you wish to continue walking with me through deep, heartfelt lessons on karma, compassion, kindness, and wisdom, please subscribe to this channel so you don't miss what's to come. Thank you for listening until the very last moment. You are wonderful for having the patience to listen, and I believe you are compassionate enough to forgive, wise enough to heal. May you be at peace, light in heart, and above all, live a serene life, holding no grudges against others and none against yourself. See you again in the next video.